Hello everyone, my name is Ayomide Bello and you're welcome to another episode of Let There Be Light. Let There Be Light is a thought leadership series brought to you by Akinwunmi and Busari legal practitioners, a corporate commercial law firm in Lagos, Nigeria. Let There Be Light discusses electricity issues in Nigeria, and today we're looking at the Electricity Act 2023 and private sector participation. Joining us in the studio today is Mrs. Wola Joseph-Condotti. She is the Group MD CEO of West Power and Gas Limited, the parent company of Eco Electricity Distribution Company and 8 other subsidiaries. She holds an LLM from Harvard, an MBA from INSEAD. She is also the founding member of Women in Energy Network. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Ma. So just get right into it. The Electricity Act 2023, when it was implemented, was to introduce private sector participation. So what do you think the impact of the Electricity Act has had on private sector participation?
To be honest, from my perspective, I think it's a bit too soon to talk about impact. I mean, the act is barely 2 years, and it takes a longer time to definitely be able to assess the impact of the act. But there are a few things that I would call game-changing impacts that we should expect, of course, that we are already seeing in the act. And I'll start with, of course, giving the states the right to regulate their own markets. So states now have their own electricity markets. That's definitely a significant game changer. Another aspect that I would say is a critical impact is franchising. We've always had the franchising guidelines by NERC, but this time it has actually been codified, more or less. So it's now in the Electricity Act that, we can franchise different areas of our network. And that is quite significant. Like I mentioned earlier, states can regulate their markets. We have a couple of states that have taken control of their markets. We have Enugu, we have Imo, states that have requested to take over their markets. We have state like I think Kogi. We have states like Oyo. We have states like Ogun State. So a few other states have also requested to take control. Another really significant impact of the act is the renewable energy sector, in a renewable energy space, and mini grids. The act is replete with provisions on renewable energy, and I think that is a very forward-thinking approach to dealing with our current state and preparing us for the future. So the act has quite a number of aspects that will be impactful, but that impact cannot be assessed today. It will take some time. A lot of states are still preparing. Like I mentioned earlier, only 4 states have actually been given regulatory autonomy in terms of regulating the market in their states. But we have 6 other states that have requested and are in the process of doing that. So 10 states in total by the end of the year, which is a lot of progress. We will be able to assess once we have a sufficient amount of states who are regulating their markets, and they're given about a year or 2 years to actually develop it and run things within their market.
All right, great. So taking what you said, game-changing impacts that we should look out for. Like I said, 4 states have already started, implementing their own state regulations for power generation and distribution, right? With National Grid and the State Grid performing alongside or running side by side, do you think that this is going to be a competition or fragmentation? How cohesive do you think this will be?
I think what I would call it is a decentralization of the market. That's what it is simply. Definitely not a fragmentation of the market. And I think it's very forward thinking. Another aspect of the act, which I should have touched on in your earlier question, is the fact that now private participants can actually start greenfield transmission projects, meaning that you can build a grid in your states can now have grids in their states, and private people can actually apply for licenses to have to own a grid, a mini grid or a grid of some sorts. So it's very forward thinking. And the current grid we have, I think the part I would say is a bit lacking in that law is that it doesn't allow investments in the current grid by private participants. And I think it would have been critical to have had that, because that would have helped just a way to carve out a way where private people, individuals can invest in the national grid that we have today and then recoup their investments one way or the other. But nonetheless, we can have private, you can apply for license and get private transmission licenses. So having the national grid and the private grids together is definitely not a fragmentation. I think it's going to complement what we have today. And what you would find is that in a lot of areas that the grid does not get to today. Remember, we had the Electricity Power Sector Reform Act before the Electricity Act. And that act allowed the states to generate and distribute in areas not covered by the grid, meaning that that law recognized that we have areas not covered by the grid. So what we're saying is that areas that are not covered by the grid today, you would see areas like that getting grids, because private people can now invest. And of course, the process of recouping your investment has been fine-tuned, is a lot better today. The tariffs are a lot more flexible. So because of that, you find that you can actually get your return on investment whenever you do such investment. So I don't see it, when you use the word fragmentation, it can have a negative connotation. I would see it as a decentralization and a way of moving us forward as a country. I think it's the way to go. I definitely support it.
Let's talk about the national grid and collapses. In 2024, we recorded about over 10, but now you're saying it's 12 collapses. That's a lot.
It's a lot. Last year was really bad.
It was really bad.
Yes.
And this year, we've had more stability,
Yes.
However, when there's like an outage for a couple of hours, you're wondering like,
did the grid
I
collapse?
hope it's not the grid. So what do you think that while other states, start to generate their own electricity, what do you think the private sector can do? What is the government actually doing right now?
Yeah, the government has done a lot. I mentioned earlier that the government has allowed private people to invest in transmission infrastructure. We can have a private grid. So that's the first thing that is going to help take pressure off the national grid that we have as we have it today. But what are the issues with the national grid? Issues that I'm sure we all know. First of all, the infrastructure is outdated. Remember that the national grid is yet to be privatized. I wouldn't necessarily say privatizing it is the way forward. I would only say it's the way forward if the government is not ready and able or capable of investing extensively in it. The national grid requires a huge amount of investment. And so I can understand if people say private people should come in, right? The national grid is extremely critical to us as a nation. It's what gets us across. It's what takes power from the north to the south. You have a generating plant in the north, and taking that power from the north to the south is a national grid. So it's critical. Technology is also extremely key. Our national grid is not, we need to invest. And when I say investment is the key thing, because with investment, you can also do technology, right? SCADA, we need SCADA infrastructure. We need a lot of upgrades. We need to buy a lot of huge transformers. So a lot of investments still need to go into the transmission as we have it. Another thing that I think we really need, that we need help with, is we have a bit of a dearth in terms of manpower, knowledge. So we need to, a lot of our engineers are really, really good engineers, but we need to expose them to a lot more, to the way things are done today. And first of all, when we upgrade the technology, then we need to train the engineers to understand how to use the technology. So I would say the two key things for me would be the knowledge gap, and definitely the investment in the infrastructure would be the two key things.
Knowledge gap and investments in the infrastructure.
Yes.
Let's talk about foreign direct investments.
Yes.
How do you think that we can have an attractive climate for foreign direct investments?
In the last, the power sector was privatized in 2013, and since 2013, I'm not sure we've seen a lot of foreign investments in the power sector. As a matter of fact, a few people that actually invested have actually run away, right? Tariffs. If you have tariffs that are not cost reflective, nobody's going to invest. What is cost reflective? The tariff is showing that the amount of cost that I put into creating that product, I will recoup that cost and then a little return on investment. For as long as the tariff is not cost reflective, it means that anybody investing will not recoup. We have owned EcoDisco since 2013, and we have not been able to pay dividends since 2013 to our shareholders.
Wow.
We've not been able to do
I
that.
would have taken my money
So,
out.
of course. So you can
If
see,
that
and
was it.
why? What we've dealt with is we've had shortfalls. What are shortfalls? Shortfalls are the part of the tariff we're not able, people are not paying. So today, people will tell you band A is cost reflective. That's an argument for another day. It is to a certain extent, right? But there are a few other components that, there are a few people that would argue otherwise for different reasons, because it's 209 naira. It has been 209 naira since last year, I believe, and there's a dollar component in the tariff, right? There's an inflation component in the tariff, so it's benchmarked on all these indices that ordinarily should make the tariff go up and go down, typically. So right now, the dollar exchange rate is really good. I'm not saying it's really good, but it's better than we've seen we're seeing it drop, right? So I'm excited to see it drop. There's hope. And I read some predictions yesterday. I said it's going to probably get to 1,300 now. That is really good. Tariffs will drop, right? But when it starts to go high, tariffs should start to increase. That is for band A. Band B tariff today is 62 naira. It's the same power we're bringing to band A. It's the same cost in terms of capex costs, opex costs to bring the power to band A and bring it to band B. So there's still a lot of losses still going on in there. There's no one I'm going to talk to come and invest. First of all, foreign investments will come in dollars. Let's remember that. Most likely in dollars. So they're going to be wanting to recoup in dollars. If not in dollars, they want to be able to change that naira to dollar and get the dollar equivalent plus some change. For as long as we don't get the tariff right, number one, it will be almost impossible to get any foreign person. It'll be difficult. Let me not say impossible, because that's a strong word, but I would say it would be extremely difficult to get any foreign company to come and invest in the power sector. As Group CEO, I've had discussions with quite a number of foreign investors, proposed investors, and the first thing they want to know is, how can we recoup these investments? That's the first thing they want to know. And you sit with them and you're running numbers and you see that it's a struggle. Either the business will suffer substantially or the investor will make a huge loss. So at the end of the day, why would they come and invest? And they say, look, as long as you can't tell us how we're going to make our returns on this investment, it's not worth it for us. It's not charity now. Nobody does it.
How do we find balance then? Making it affordable and also helping investors.
That's what NEC has been trying to balance. I must commend the NERC, the commission. I'll be honest, because I can imagine the kind of difficult situation they are in today. They are struggling and really trying to, just get that balance between attracting investments and ensuring that the poor man on the street can afford power. It's and ensuring that we also, the investors in 2013, can get a return on that investment. They struggle it's a difficult balance, and it puts them in a very difficult situation. So it's the regulator that really has the powers, and not just NERC. I would say also we need the federal government involved. CBN was actively involved a couple of years ago, and CBN's impact is still being felt today in the sector, because they gave loans at an interest rate that was a bit acceptable it was single digit. So that made the investments quite attractive, and they ensured that the contractors selected for those projects were knowledgeable contractors who would deliver. So they tried in that regard. So we need those type of things to support the process. So I would say NERC, I would say the Ministry of Finance, I would say, of course, that's the federal government as a whole generally, pulling in the Ministry of Finance, pulling in CBN, all the ministerial departments that could possibly have a role to play in driving this thing forward. We need to come together. There
has to be more collaboration.
Collaboration, that's the word.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so very much. It has been short but really insightful. The last question I will usually ask is if you had to describe the Electricity Act in one word, or how do you see it? What word would it be?
I actually said the word already, and that's game changing.
Game changing.
Game changing. I would say, I don't need to elaborate on that. I think it's very clear that the Act made a considerable amount of changes that will definitely move the industry forward.
So hopefully in about how many years from now we'll see
I think people should be fair and give at least 5 years.
5 years.
Yes. So people are setting up their state regulatory markets. before they settle in, before they start doing anything, before they start licensing companies to come in and generate, before people to come in and build a plant takes about a year, 2 years, a year in a really, really fast scenario, because they need financing as well. But in typically about 2 years. So that takes some time. Even to import the infrastructure, we don't really make much in this country, to be honest. So it will take some time. So realistically speaking, I would say about 5 years. And it's important that whoever is in NERC is someone who can support this vision and understands where we are going. So not just NEC, but the state regulatory commissions as well. Whoever they're putting there understands, there are people that are equipped and understand what we need to do to drive this particular law forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so very much for watching this episode. Mrs. Wola Joseph-Condotti has said the Electricity Act 2023 is a game changer, and that you should, be fair. In another 5 years, we would greatly see the impacts. We hope so. And thank you again. Please do not forget to watch, share, like, subscribe, tell people about Let There Be Light series. It's important for us to be aware of these things, how the laws are affecting us, and how we can also contribute as people and citizens of Nigeria. Thank you. I remain Ayomide Bello. Till the next episode. Bye for now.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the special edition of Let There Be Light Fireside Chat. As we all know, the electricity sector has evolved with the emergence of the Electricity Act 2023. Different states have been given regulatory control over their electricity market. So, in this special edition, we'll be spotlighting commissioners, coordinators of different states and having interviews with them on how they have been driving these changes. So, you do not want to miss any of the sessions. It promises to be enlightening, so stay tuned.